this debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live. This is why we need independent media.
Cheers and salutations. Welcome to Hard Lens Media. As always, we want to bring on guests who have different viewpoints and perspectives. Now, for a long time, diehard Democratic politicians and Republican politicians, we have yet to have a Republican politician on the show, by the way, or candidate on our show. They're always hesitant to be on our show, but Hard Lens Media has been a platform for independent voices. If you've been with us from the beginning, especially follow our YouTube channel, we've interviewed members of the Illinois Green Party, Libertarian Party, socialist groups, and other individuals that are breaking away from the two-party system and challenging it. And as always, as we've covered on the show, third parties have to climb numerous mountains, cross numerous trenches, just so they can have enough ballot signatures to be on the ballot, but also, dare I say, it's even another challenge altogether for third parties to be on the debate stage. Other democracies have other choices. Other democracies have a multi-parliamentary system in which there isn't just two parties, there are multiple parties. And I'm proud to bring in one of our guests. His name is Larry Sharpe. He is one of the members of the Libertarian Party. He was also a presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. He also has his own podcast and social media as well. And joining me here, first time on our show, thank you so much, Larry Sharpe, for joining Hard Lens Media.
Happy to be here, my friend. I appreciate it. Just one minor correction.
Okay.
I was not a presidential candidate. I was a gubernatorial candidate for New York twice.
I apologize for that. And I just realized my notes on that. So there you go. Even I am not perfect. So there you go. But maybe, I don't know, there might be a potential feature in that for a long one. So, all right. So
maybe I just didn't want any stolen valor here. That's all, brother. No stolen valor.
I understand. And I also know that one Marine to another, good to have you on the show. So there you go. So
here we go. Semper Fi, brother. Semper Fi.
There we go. All right. So for the most part, let's really talk about the bigger picture and overall problems that third parties have to face. Now, again, I have said on the show, I'm all for third parties. I'm all for them to be on the debate stage, to be on the ballot. But it's getting far more harder for third parties to even be considered as a legitimate choice. Already, corporate media is doing everything they can to derail the possibility for Americans to choose, be it libertarians or Greens or any other third party choice. So overall, for libertarians, what are you guys doing right now to derail this message? Because already third parties are being vilified. Third parties are being made into the scapegoat for said candidate X or Y will be the reason why they'll be in office because people went ahead and voted third party. So what is your commentary on that?
Kid, I wish you were wrong, but damn it, you're right. So it is, everything you said is true. Absolutely. It's a problem. However, there is a good news to this. The reason why there's such an attack on third parties is because now is actually our time. And they see it as our time. Your point, why are people listening to you? Why are people paying attention to me? Why is Yang trying to create a forward party? Why does that even exist? Because now is the time. People are actually realizing that, you know what, maybe the left-right paradigm isn't working. In states like New York, my state, the Republicans now, who are the junior party in my state, they're actually lower in registration than people who have no registration. It's Democrats, other Republicans. Mm-hmm. So people are now looking to find something else. And they know it. So now they're setting up rules to stop it. Think about Ross Perot. For those of you old enough may remember Ross Perot in the 90s. Ross Perot was actually making impact in the 90s. And prior to that, nobody cared. Let the independents play their little stupid games. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, Ross Perot started to make some actual movement. When that happened, they created the Committee on Presidential Debates, which was a bipartisan, not nonpartisan, a bipartisan committee to decide who gets in presidential debates. The purpose of that was to set up something official to stop third parties from getting debates ever again. And it worked. That was the goal. Now here in New York State, they thought, wait a minute, Larry Sharpe, I was actually polling at 6% as a third party candidate in December of last year before I even announced. I hadn't even announced running yet. They were like, that's a problem, so let's crush him. And they sued me in civil court to make sure I could not be in the ballot. And the judges, who are all in on this, I wish they weren't, but they are. 9 times we sued them total, when you include appeals and actual lawsuits in both state and federal court. And we lost 9 times with an argument that's grossly simple. Putting me on the ballot, this is to your point, putting me on the ballot causes no harm. If you don't like me, don't vote for me. People did vote for me a whole lot in 2018. Just don't vote for me. But if you don't put me on the ballot, literally, you are taking away the voters' ability to vote for who they want. You are actually causing harm. And the other point I bring up is most people who run third party know their odds of victory are slim to none. Most know that if they're not going to. Not just that, most people voting for that person know that person's not going to win. Most of them know. So then why would you run and why would you vote? It is literally political speech. There is literally no stronger form of political speech than voting against the system or against people. So the New York State doing that and across the country doing that is literally attacking our First Amendment, stopping our political speech. And I told the judges this year, I said, about 500,000 people across New York State every single year vote for the independent candidate. About 500,000 every other year. That's what happens. This year, from 2022 to 2018, this is the first year in 80 years there was no independent candidate on the ballot in New York State for governor. First time in 80 years, no independent, only left and right. 500,000 less people voted this time than last time. Meanwhile, we had over 1 million more people registered to vote. 500,000 less voted. Exactly what I said. This is actual voter suppression. This is actual voter suppression. I'm sorry, I went long, brother. I wanted to give you the
No. That's perfectly fine because I want to really stress this out because again, with New York, again, we're not too familiar with the politics in New York State, but here in Illinois, the situation for the Illinois Greens and Libertarians who have to occasionally work together just so that both parties can be on the debate stage or either that be on the ballot. They have to get twice the amount or 10 times the amount of signatures just so that they're not kicked off because Illinois is very draconian towards third parties. And especially in your state in particular, there was a U.S. candidate, U.S. Senate candidate whose name was Diane Scher. She was an independent and she was purposely silenced and almost kicked
100%.
off the ballot as well. And then there was another Green Party candidate in North Carolina named Matthew Ho, who I think he had some support from Greens, Libertarians, and other various groups, just so that he can get back on the ballot as well. So, what my question is then is obviously 2024, there's going to be further barriers. Is there any talk amongst libertarians? Because the people who I've spoke to is libertarians, and let's face it, not to dismiss libertarians or nothing, but you put 10 libertarians in a room, you're going to get 100 different opinions.
100%.
Is there any talk about maybe a centralized plan or unification to really challenge the system? Because to the credit for the Illinois Libertarian Party, and this is the first time I've seen this in years of voting, almost the entire on all the sections for running for governor to all the other seats that were up for election, the Illinois Libertarian Party got a candidate on the ballot successfully for somebody to vote for. Now, that should be copied by all other groups. Is there any kind of talk, or is the Libertarian Party still divided? Because that's the thing. When it comes down to getting a message, third parties have that problem because there's various inner fightings.
There's a couple things to worry about. Diane Scher, by the way, I know a friend. I adore her. She was not attacked as much as the others for an important reason. In New York State, it doesn't matter if it's a statewide election or not. What matters is it the governor's election? New York State's very specific.
Okay.
For you to get on the ballot, the governor candidate must get either 130,000 votes or 2%, whichever is higher. That is the rule for New York State. There is no other way of getting on the ballot except the presidential election. So governor and or president, that's it. And that's blatantly unconstitutional because why would a local party run a presidential candidate? They would never do so. So again, it literally crushes all local parties. So you have to have a presidential candidate and or a gubernatorial and then a gubernatorial candidate, or you can't be on the ballot. Again, why would a local party who cares about local things, like in New York State, we had the rent is too damn high party, right? Which is a valid party because, or should be, because people care about rent. But they're not going to run a presidential candidate. They don't have the resources to do so. So anyway, that's my point there. Yes, we work together with the Greens all the time. Yes, in fact, Howie Hawkins here in New York State, we did a virtual debate together anyway, a writing campaign debate. We do work together all the time because we are in trouble. Libertarian Party, we're in trouble. And I work locally more than anything else. I rarely work at the national level. But in New York State, I'm going to go out of my way to raise enough money and get a team together for us to get ballot access in 2024. We're going to have to raise about $500,000 by April 1 of 2024. That is not an easy task, but it can be done. I've raised $500,000 for my own election twice, so it can be done. It's just gonna be challenging. And then that amount of money will have to get behind whoever our presidential nominee is. The goal is, I hope, excuse me, and I hope most people believe this, the goal is to get a libertarian presidential candidate who can unite the party. What will unite the party is not libertarians. As you've said accurately, we're not good at that. But what does unite us is an actual good candidate. And I would say it did happen in 2016 with Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson did unite most libertarians together during that race. I hope we can do it again.
So the thing is, though, that is a problem, though, because with third parties, it can be viewed is that if you support Green or Libertarian, you're deemed outside and you're in the fringe. So the thing is, like, politics 101 is you want to convince everyone, even voters in the Democratic Republican Party, that you are the better of the said candidate. So will there ever be a platform of where the libertarians will stand on certain issues? Because let's face it, right now there is an ongoing economic crisis. Money has bought our democracy. We don't have true representation. Occasionally you might get a politician. I know right now Cinema right now is declaring she's an independent, but if you think that's an independent, just look at the people who she once aligned with: activists, Green Party, progressive Democrats. If you're a libertarian or conservative Republican, you think, oh yeah, great for Cinema. Look at how she treated the people she's surrounded with her in the past. I mean, that's like corruption there.
No, you were right. Great for Cinema. You were right. Great for Cinema. Nobody else.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. I think we all can agree on that. So that's overall messaging, because the one thing that third parties have had a problem so far is getting the overall message out there. And there's only been a handful of people that have done so, but that they've been vilified. Take, for example, Ralph Nader is still vilified for the Bush election, or what happened in the year 2000. Dr. Jill Stein is still viewed as a Russian puppet by corporate media. So there's the overall message and outreach. So what would then be your plan if you had to gather around with a whole bunch of other libertarians, actually come up with a plan to do outreach for third parties?
There are two things to be concerned about.
Okay, then let's bring up the concerns then.
Yeah, the first one is you want to actually have answers. People come to a third party because somebody said something that made sense to them. That's how you do it, right? Somebody said something, like maybe, I don't know, maybe Bernie Sanders said something to people, someone on the left, and it made sense. You went, oh, maybe Ron Paul and maybe Libertarian went, oh, so that kind of thing. Somebody said something. Maybe for me, it was Gary Johnson, right? Gary Johnson said something. I was like, oh, that makes sense. So you've got to have enough people to actually have answers for problems first, but that's not enough. That just gets someone to notice you. Oh, okay, these libertarians may have some answers, or in the case of these Greens might have an answer. Okay, good. Now I'm at least open to hearing them. But the second piece is you've got to have a personality that's interesting or engaging or exciting or popular. This is one reason why Trump was so good. He was popular. He was on TV for 11 years, right? There are many reasons why Trump won, but one of those was because he was on TV for so long. So you have to have some popularity also on top of that, right? Those two things. But the last part is you have to be able to raise money, because this system is pay to play. If you can raise money and get pay to play, and the targeting, to your point, the targeting should not be the Democrats and Republicans. They're not going to turn. They're Democrats or Republicans, and they hate the other. So they're so scared of the other, they're going to vote for a Democrat because, oh my God, I can't have a Republican win. I'll vote for a Republican because, oh, I can't have a Democrat win. The goal has to be for three types of people. One, the people who've never voted ever. That's number one. Number two, the people who are now done, the people who care about Forward or the Greens or Libertarians, all the third party people, right? That's number two. And the last one is the people who are really pissed off and just want to say, screw the system. Republicans, Democrats who've been screwed by their own party. Those are the three people we have to focus on. But the regular, everyday Democrat, Republican, most of them are going to vote the same way. They're just not going to change. I've seen it happen in New York State more than once. Do I talk to Democrats? I do. Do I talk to Republicans? I do. Knowing that I'm only going to siphon a small amount off. Most of them are still going to vote the same way they always do. I've got to get people who've never voted, who've decided to quit, or people who are already in that, to hell with the system mode.
Okay. Now, I want to pull up this video here. This is from Case Study QB. He's wrongly being censored on Twitter. I always have to say that because, again, he's wrongly being censored. But this video came out in December of this month on the 8th of December, 2022, and it's regards to how discussing Democrats working to stop third-party ticket from running in 2024, and this is a particular presidential election. So let's go ahead and pull up this video here. And I just want to get your commentary on this.
The Democrats are working to stop outside groups from forming any sort of bipartisan presidential ticket because these third-party groups, the sense is, right, that they would be more of a drag on the Democrats than the Republicans.
This is, according to some top Democrats, the one way that President Biden could lose a rematch with Donald Trump. Third way, the center-left think tank is out with a report this morning. Alexi McCammon got a first look at it, and it's called Dangerous Illusion. And the illusion is Democrats, it might make you feel good to have someone who's squeaky clean and third and a third slot, a third party candidate. Maybe you don't love everything about President Biden, but look what's going to happen if there's a third person out there that could tip the math against President Biden, because the third way report points out, and this is borne out by polling that you and I see every day, Trump voters are stickier. They're more likely to stick with him than Biden voters were if there were that third choice out there that could give them a chance to dilute Democratic votes.
All right.
Yes,
so
he's
that's
absolutely correct.
Okay, go ahead. Can you explain, elaborate why?
Correct. 100%. He's absolutely correct. And because I see it in my case in New York State, literally the conservative party in New York State, backed with Republican Party money, they're the people who sued me off the ballot. They dropped tens of thousands of dollars and hired lawyers to throw me off the ballot because they knew that I would siphon off of both sides. But as a libertarian in New York State, I actually, about 40% of the people who vote for me, I know because I already have data from exit polling and my actual, polls that I've done. About 40% of the people who support me are registered Republicans. About 30%, give or take, in that area are registered Democrats, and about another 30 or so in that area are something else, whatever the case, we have something else. So they know that it's mixed and matched. I take more from Republicans than Democrats, but I take some from both. They did not want that at all. He's completely correct. But here's my response to that. Yes, that's correct. And that's a good thing. Why? But Larry, my guy might lose this time. Awesome. But I want you to think about something if someone's out there listening or watching this. Don't forget, Bush got us Obama. Obama got us Trump. Trump got us Biden. Who's winning? It's not us. We're not winning. The elites keep winning. They keep swapping back and forth. The elites keep winning, swapping back and forth in power while we lose. So what if all of a sudden one of them loses faster than they were supposed to lose? Good. Then maybe a third party will come into play and they'll have to work together. They'll have to care about us. If a third, let's say, for example, this guy's correct, and Andrew Yang's Forward Party becomes a center-left party. I don't know if that's really true, but let's say, for example, what happens, and they take off enough votes away, and whoever the Republican is in 2024, whatever, it's DeSantis wins. Okay, Democrats are angry. I got it, but guess what would have to happen in the Democratic Party? The Democratic Party would have to actually pay attention to its base. It does not now at all. It ignores its base. It disses its base. It spits in its base's face. It would have to actually care about its base, which it should. It's a political party. Or Forward takes over. One or the other happens. Or Forward splits the whole left into two sides. That's not a bad thing. That would actually make it actually work. Same for the other side, right? If all of a sudden a bunch of liberty-leaning Republicans say, we're going to go vote libertarian. Awesome. That'd be a great thing. Now, wouldn't you rather have a political party that has to answer to its base? I would think so.
In theory, that does sound correct. Now, here's where I've evolved my opinion in regards to third parties. Now, yes, when it comes down to third parties, and I said this on the show, in the midterm of 2022 for the state of Illinois, I voted third party. So that means there were Greens that I voted for, Libertarians that I voted for. I think there was one spot that was open for the Workers' Party, a few others that were independent, not affiliate. And that's fine. But my issue kind of with parties in general, though, and this is just nothing against third parties, but it's something that was brought up to me on our show by a good friend of the show, Roger Meadows. And that is, all right, political parties usually can be corrupted from within. There's always that influence that Washington, D.C. has over parties. Let's not forget that before there were Republicans and Democrats, there was Democrats and the Whigs. And even before then, there was the Federalists and the Whigs, and et cetera, et cetera. And no matter what, if there's ever been a third party, its policies or ideas are either taken by one of the two major parties. Libertarians have always been victims of the Republican Party for stealing ideas from them. Green Party, likewise, from the Democrats. But yet both parties will never follow through with any of those policy matters. So would you be more in the camp of agreeing that we should abolish all political parties and have independence? Because with independence and regular citizens, private citizens that are not connected to the Washington, D.C. elite of lawyers and dynastic families, we have real independents that are not party affiliated, and that we have people actually fighting for their own said beliefs that are popular. Take, for example, ballot initiatives. When we talk about something like, for example, women's reproductive rights or cannabis legalization, if you ask a question to a regular voter and it's not connected to the Democrat or Republican, policy ideas that are popular win through. Cannabis legalization, protecting women's rights to choose.
100%.
Student, eventually, I don't know, there's a whole fight for fighting Medicare for all at the state level. If that's the case, we have a conversation for it. Would you be in more of a camp of let's abolish all political parties? Where do you stand on that?
Let me cover everything you mentioned. The first part about third parties. Third parties do take over, right? The Republican Party was basically an abolitionist party. It had one big idea that the Republican Party would not accept. The Republican Party would not become an abolitionist party. I'm sorry, the Whig Party. The Whig Party would not become an abolitionist party. So the Republican Party said, we're abolitionists and we're going to move forward. And eventually, it replaced the Whig Party because that issue was so big. Don't you think that a Democratic wing or a Green Party that would say Medicare for all, which so many Democrats want, if they would get on that board, they could probably take over Democrats? Then they could. Or openly cannabis legalization or anything like that. So I think a third party can move in, be around for several years as Whigs, Republicans, Democrats were, and then eventually replace one or the other. I think they could in the current system. I would prefer, as you were talking about earlier, I would prefer some system to where it's more like a parliamentary system where you could have smaller parties as part of the conversation. You could create coalitions on certain issues. I would prefer that. However, would I be okay with ending political parties? Sure, if two things were true. One, serious campaign finance reform, where everything is 100% transparent. No PACs, no committees, no union money, nothing. It is only individuals giving, totally transparent. If you did that, I'd be open to the idea. But the corruptible part is still there because the corruption is still there because the government has so much money and so much power. When you centralize so much money and power, it's a juicy target. Somebody's going to come try to be corrupt. So would it end corruption? No. Would it decrease it? I think, yes, I agree with you. I think it would decrease it if you changed campaign finance rules.
So let me ask you this question then in regards to that, because I'm glad you bring up campaign finance rules, because as someone who's been seeing a lot of it here in my state in Illinois and in Chicago, money is speech, corporations are people. And I've seen this also in other states as well, where the person with the most money wins. Are you on board with abolishing Citizens United and McCutcheon's decision that has systematically favored our two-party system greatly?
100%.
Okay, so can you explain your reasoning why? Because the thing is, for the most part, because when we spoken to some libertarians here and there, and even Democrat and Republican pundits and individuals, they're all like, no, let's keep it around Citizens United. Why are you against it?
Because corporations are not people, period. They aren't. And the idea that anyone would say that is just insane. If corporations are people, if that was true, then guess what? You can't subpoena any documents from a corporation. Why? It has Fifth Amendment protection. It's a person. It doesn't have, it can't incriminate itself. It can decide, no, I'm not going to give you anything. The Fifth Amendment, sorry, you can't have any of my documents. Not just that it can own guns, can it? Not just that it can vote. It can do all the things that a citizen can vote. You can't go in and take anything that has protection from illegal search and seizure, right? It has everything that we have. It has if it's a person. So it's not a person, number one. But number two, what it actually does is it allows people to hide money that they're giving. I actually don't mind if one guy or gal decides to give someone $1 million. They do it now anyway, but now it's dark money. So just do it up front. If you're going to do it up front. And people say, well, wait a minute, Larry, that means the guy with the most money wins. Oh, does that mean we have President Bloomberg? We don't, right? If it was only about money, nothing else, Bloomberg would be our president now. He literally dropped $500,000 I mean, $500 million. He dropped $500 million into his failed election. So it isn't always the person with the most money. But when we know it is one person with lots of money, people, naturally Americans, we don't like that. We push away from that. We go, that guy's, he's bought and sold. Oh, wait a minute, this other guy isn't. So I do like the idea of getting rid of Citizens United, because corporations aren't people. PACs are hurtful. Unions should not be able to give money to anybody. Individuals within that union should be able to give. If a union gives money to somebody, that's literally forced speech, right? If you're a member of a union and the union gives money to some candidate, well, if you like that candidate, good, because you support the candidate. Wonderful. What if you don't? It's forced speech. You can't do that. So that's why we have to get rid of it. Corporations should not be people. It's a terrible idea. It should be ended.
Okay, so as we are nearing the end of our show, just two things I want to bring up here real quick. So for our viewing audience, in case they're interested in supporting third parties or looking into what your organization is doing, where can people follow you online for social media? And then also, and if there's any kind of events that are taking place, can you please share them? And then number two, what do you want to say to people who have been critical of third parties for such a long time, to where they view it as a threat to democracy? So let's finalize that with those two questions.
Sure. The threat to democracy piece. Number one, what's been happening now? Please stop pretending like your two-party system's working. If it was, we wouldn't be where we are now. It doesn't work. We have a system right now to where people don't vote for someone they want. They vote against somebody. And now victory isn't my life getting better. Victory is I own the lib, or I punish the Trumpster. That's victory now. How is that a victory? That's your current system. If you believe a two-party system is right and my Republicans, Democrats are good, you live in a fantasy world. You have Stockholm syndrome. The person's been beating you up for so long, you don't know any better. And now you think because he throws a strawberry into your closet every once in a while, that now he loves you. He doesn't love you. He's punishing you. It's a terrible idea. End it. How do I know? Look at our nation. Look at our friends. Look at our division. All around you, it is failing. The worst that happens with third parties is the same. That's the worst. The best is we make actual change. So that's piece one. Piece two, if you care about what I'm saying and you like it, great. Go to the Sharpe way on all the internet things. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Twitch, all the things. TikTok. You can either do Larry Sharpe or the Sharpe way. I'm on all the things. Every event I'm doing is usually on Facebook on my event page, or go to my campaign page, LarrySharpe.com. Look at events. You'll see everything there.
All right, fantastic. I want to thank you so much for being on our show here. And look, at the end of the day, folks, we do need to hear out other voices in this day and age of YouTube censorship and suppression and stuff that we're seeing on all the other social media platforms. We need to have open dialogue and discussion. And I want to thank Larry Sharpe, who is associated with the Libertarian Party, being on our show. Now, there's a lot of things I don't agree with libertarians about, but so long as we have a debate and conversations, that's the first step, because the idea of those controlling speech, it's never the answer. I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in free speech. And yes, I do believe that third parties, and dare I say it even further, the abolishment of all political parties is needed. But if we're going to fight for a better future, we need to start building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. So Larry Sharpe, thank you again for being on our show so much.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to thank all of our viewing audiences as well for supporting us. Be sure to check out Hard Lens Media. We're on YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, and Twitch. My name is Kit. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future. Take care, folks.